This is Entrepreneur Studio, brought to you by SC Biz News. I'm Patrick Bryant, CEO of software development firm Code and Trust and chairman of the Harbor Entrepreneur Center. Our sponsor is Matt Pardek and Chris Corley of Harbor Wealth Management Group, who are no strangers to helping entrepreneurs in our community. Earl Bridges is the founder of Good Done Great, a software company that exited how many years ago now?
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but it was 6 years in the making.
That's right.
And where were you before?
I had been at Blackbaud, a lot of tech companies that were in and around the nonprofit space, but it wasn't until I started Good Done Great that I was really just, this was my own venture inside of this world. We started it, actually, it's interesting, we started it because we wanted to work with people that had money instead of people that needed money. Yeah. And that's that was the very first good decision that we made, because money is what it takes to make these things successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you did switch from the side of the coin of directly helping nonprofits the way you would at Blackbaud to helping people that wanted to give money to those nonprofits.
Yeah, how do you figure out where exactly your money makes the biggest impact?
But really speaking of all that money, I mean, investors were a big key in that, right? Like you guys were playing a game of needing investors to support in order to build what you wanted to build.
Yeah, two things I learned about that. Number one is I would have taken on money earlier than I did. So we started with nothing and we grew it to a period we were about 500,000 annual recurring revenue before we started to look for capital. It's great if you can do that, but we would have been more successful had we taken on money before. And I think the second,
more successful.
Successful. That's right.
A pretty large exit within 6 years.
That's right. Yes.
So you would like a pretty large exit within what, 3 years now?
I think we all would have enjoyed that a little bit sooner. Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because, like you say, money is a very important part of it. And I think the other part of it that I learned is that all money is not the same money. Yeah. So really, who you get money from, if you can have your ideal investor, they provide the network, they provide the gray matter, they help you build the team.
Well, give us an example. Like, what's an investor that wasn't ideal? You're pitching.
Well, I mean, I remember pitching to some really successful business people here that had some really big exits themselves, and thinking about, as we go through our pro forma, one of them getting on to me about the fact that printing expenses went up from like $250 to $4,000 or something like that. And out of this multi-million-dollar pro forma with our hockey stick and our upper right-hand quadrant of all the beautiful things that we're doing, they're getting on to me about one little thing.
Zooming in on printing.
And so far, I mean, you're so far away from what the vision is at that point. And that's a good investor for me. It wasn't until I actually found a really good investor that I saw what this really could look like.
And what was that?
For me, it was a gentleman named Bud Watts who'd been around with the Carlyle Group and has done a lot of tech investment. He was probably the most astute investor that I saw. But there were two things. One is he didn't try to choke us down. He didn't try to say, okay, I'm going to give you as little as possible so he can extract the most value, because he knows that if he starves you, you also won't be successful. So he was pulling for us, and we were pulling for him, and we were all in that together. I think that was a big thing. The second thing is he knew that things always take longer and sometimes need additional capital. So he kicked in, and I think the bigger thing is that a really smart investor can help you with all of these things: the network, thinking about it hard, providing a laser focus. But it wasn't until we got him that we really started to take off. And I think that if anyone is lucky enough, I mean, you find your bud.
I love it. Thanks so much. Cheers.